star shape.
The star shade, yeah.
Oh, that's even more ambitious.
It's like a giant, like, flower-shaped...
Yeah, like a sunflower.
Yeah, like a sunflower that would orbit in space.
And it would unfold and block out the light from the star.
It's incredible.
Yeah, it's like science fiction, but it's real.
And a lot of this goes back to this woman named Nancy Grace Roman.
Oh, yeah, the mother of Hubble.
The mother of Hubble.
She was a...
Welcome to Witter. Who Has Time to Read? The podcast that brings deep dives for busy minds. Listen to AI hosts Jane and Dane and get ready to unpack the world's most captivating books in just a fraction of the time. Whether commuting, working out, or just squeezing in a quick break, we deliver key insights, thought-provoking themes, and takeaways you can carry into your day. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Plus, use our links in the description to purchase this book. Your support helps us bring more engaging book discussions to you. Listen and follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Who has time to read? You do, with Witter.
All right, welcome back everyone to Witter, your one-stop shop for deep dives for busy minds. We're diving deep today into Michael Lewis's book, Who is Government? The Untold Story of Public Service.
Yeah, who is government?
It's not just Lewis, though.
No.
It's a bunch of other really great writers.
Yeah.
Like Casey Sepp, Dave Eggers, John Lanchester, Geraldine Brooks, Sarah Vowell, W. Kamau Bell.
Yeah.
I mean, a really fascinating collection.
A lot of big names.
It's a really fascinating collection of writers and thinkers. Mm-hmm. And a lot of these stories, I think, actually started in the Washington Post.
Yeah, it was a series of articles in the Washington Post. And so he kind of took that and expanded on it and created this book.
So a lot of people were really interested in the articles.
Yeah.
And it kind of expanded from there. But it's this question of who is government?
Yeah.
And like you were saying, like really kind of trying to get beyond the political theater.
Right.
And like understand, like, what is the government actually doing?
Yeah. Yeah, the day-to-day work of the government. Right. I mean, I think people tend to think of like elected officials, right, the president, Congress, but there's a whole bureaucracy that we don't think about every day.
Well, I mean, Lewis starts the book with this. He's just like, you know what? Like, he's like, I think I'm a pretty politically engaged person. Mm. He's like, I have no idea what these government agencies actually do. And he uses the example of Rick Perry.
Oh, yeah.
Who, during his presidential run, wanted to completely abolish the Department of Energy.
Yeah.
And then later on, when he was being confirmed as the Secretary of Energy, like, he was like, oh, yeah, I actually had no idea what the Department of Energy did.
Which is like,
but now that I know what they do,
that's like a really key department.
I don't want to abolish it.
Yeah. I mean, they handle, the nuclear arsenal, a lot of energy research and policy.
Yeah.
It's a really key department.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
So it's like that, but also the Department of Agriculture. Like, what does the Department of Agriculture actually do? And it's like, well, a lot.
They do a lot for, preserving and maintaining rural America. And it's like, well,
a lot of farming subsidies, food safety regulations, a lot of stuff that I think people just take for granted.
Absolutely. So, I mean, one of the questions he poses is, like, why are these stories untold?
Right.
Like, why
don't we know this?
Yeah, why don't we know this? And one of the things he says is that, well, journalism has changed.
Yeah.
It's become a lot more difficult for news organizations to actually invest in the kind of long-form investigative journalism that's required.
Right, that kind of deep dive, right? Where it takes months or even years to really understand what's going on.
And also, like, the government, like their PR, like their public relations.
Oh, yeah, it's all about, like, damage control.
Yeah.
It's not about highlighting the good work that they do. It's about preventing embarrassing news from coming out.
Yeah, it's very reactive.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you have the people themselves.
Right. Like, a lot of the people that Lewis is profiling, these aren't people that, are trying to get on 60 Minutes or something like that.
They're not looking for fame. They're not looking for glory.
They're just like, I want to do a really good job.
They believe in public service.
Exactly.
That's their driving force.
And he talks about, like, there's the Partnership for Public Service, which tries to highlight some of the work that civil servants do.
Yeah.
But even they have a hard time because so much of the attention goes to these, The
elected officials.
Yeah, the elected officials. Yeah. So, this book kind of brings some of those stories to light. Mm-hmm. And, one that really stuck out to me was the story of Chris Addington.
Chris Addington.
Now, This is a guy, PhD from Princeton. He could have gone on and done anything he wanted. Right. He could have worked in academia. He could have worked in industry.
Could have made a lot of money, probably.
Probably would have made a lot of money.
Yeah.
But he decides to work for the Bureau of Mines.
The Bureau of Mines. Yeah. Not exactly the most glamorous agency.
And he decides to work in West Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
And what's so fascinating is that, like, over his 40 years working there, he goes from this, Princeton PhD to...
He becomes like a West Virginia coal miner himself.
Yeah, he basically becomes a coal miner.
Yeah.
Like, his whole way of speaking, his mannerisms, everything just becomes...
Yeah, he really embodies the community that he serves.
He's totally absorbed into the community.
Yeah.
And, I think one of the most important things that he does is he's the one that really kind of invents a lot of the mine safety that we use today. Because he's like, look...
Right, because back then it was kind of like the Wild West, right? I mean, people were dying in coal mines all the time.
Yeah, it was incredibly dangerous.
And there weren't a lot of good regulations or really good scientific understanding of how to prevent these accidents.
Yeah, and he says this. He's just like, the science wasn't there. Like, It wasn't like a mathematical equation.
Right.
Like, you couldn't just plug in some numbers and figure out how to prevent a roof collapse.
It was trial and error.
Yeah, it was a lot of trial and error. And he also, he really looked at the existing safety regulations.
Yeah.
And realized that, there were people that were dying even when they were following the regulations.
Right.
So it's like the regulations themselves weren't good enough.
And this gets to, why she chose to work for the government, right?
Yeah.
Because he felt like if he worked in industry, their bottom line would always be profit, not safety.
Yeah.
And if he worked in academia, he felt like there were too many ties to industry,
Yeah.
So he wanted to be independent, and the Bureau of Mines gave him that.
Yeah. And the access to the mines, too.
Yeah, the access, yeah.
So he kind of stumbles into this world of the Bureau of Mines. And at first it sounds like it's like the most bureaucratic.
He's in a basement office.
Yeah, he's in a basement office. He's got
There's one other guy who's not that inspiring.
He's got this one other guy who is not that inspiring. And he's given these kind of, less glamorous tasks.
But he's just thrilled to be there.
But he's just so excited to be there. And he basically invents his own title.
Yeah, he's like, I'm the principal roof control specialist.
Principal roof control specialist.
Like, he made that up.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And so, one of the first things that he comes up with is the stability factor for a mine roof. And the coal mine engineers, they love this.
Yeah, because, it gives them a number, right? It gives them a way to quantify the risk.
Exactly.
And they're like, oh, this is great, even though they didn't actually do the research themselves.
They're just whatever.
Yeah.
But then it turns out, the stability of a mine roof is really dependent on, where it is, the geology of it.
Right. Different coal fields have different geology.
Yeah.
So his formula didn't work everywhere.
And he realizes this, and this is where he comes up with this idea about horizontal stress. So he's like, okay, well, he's like, the Earth's tectonic plates, they actually exert pressure on the rock formations.
Yeah.
And he's like, that's actually what's causing the roofs to collapse.
And it explains why in West Virginia, for example, north-south mines were more prone to collapse than east-west mines.
Exactly.
Because of the way the stress was oriented.
Yeah, it's like if you think about a spaghetti noodle.
Right.
If you try to bend it.
It snaps easily.
It snaps easily. But if you try to, squish it.
Yeah, it's much harder to break that way.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with the rocks in the mines, right?
And so he's like, oh, so that's what's happening. And then he gets interested in this other problem, which is not like these massive roof collapses.
Yeah, smaller rocks that fall.
Yeah, the smaller rocks that fall that actually injure a lot of miners.
Which is a different problem than the fatal roof collapses, but still a really important problem.
Exactly. And then he has this really terrible example of what happens when people ignore government knowledge.
Oh, the Crandall Canyon mine disaster.
Crandall Canyon mine disaster.
Yeah.
Where, a company, Murray Energy.
They basically ignored his warnings.
They ignore his warnings.
They wanted to get more coal out.
They wanted to get as much coal out as they could.
And then they said, you know what? We're going to ignore this guy's formula for how thick the pillars should be.
And the result was a devastating
mine collapse.
Yeah.
Several miners died, and then even some of the rescuers died trying to get them out.
Yeah. It's a really terrible example of what can happen when you ignore the experts.
Yeah, when profit comes before safety.
Yeah, exactly. But he doesn't just do mine safety. He even helps his dad.
Oh, yeah. His dad was working on the Washington National Cathedral.
With the Washington National Cathedral, yeah.
Using mine safety equipment to study the movement of the building.
Yeah, it's incredible. Like his understanding of forces and stresses, it's amazing. But we go from the depths of the earth to hallowed ground with Ron Walters.
Ron Walters, yeah, the National Cemetery Administration.
National Cemetery Administration. Now, I think a lot of people, they don't think about the work that goes on at the National Cemetery Administration, but it's a really vital function.
Oh, it's incredibly important.
And it's a huge responsibility.
A huge responsibility.
They're burying over 140,000 veterans and family members every year.
Yeah, and maintaining the memories of, almost 4 million who are already interred in 155 national cemeteries across the country.
And it's for everybody, right?
All veterans, yeah.
Every veteran.
Regardless of their rank, their background.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
They all get the same treatment. And Walters himself, he's dedicated his life to public service.
Yeah. He had an internship at Veterans Affairs, and then he just kind of rose through the ranks.
Yeah.
And he really believes in the mission of the NCA.
Yeah, and they talk about, the repatriation of war dead.
Oh, yeah.
That's
like the ultimate expression of our national commitment, right?
It's a really powerful...
So we'll bring them home and give them a proper burial.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a very emotional thing,
Yeah. And he really kind of brought this idea of the PDCA cycle plan, do, check, act like continuous improvement.
Right. He wanted to constantly improve the services that the NCA was providing.
He wanted to make it the best. And they talk about the story of a technician.
Oh, yeah, in Tennessee.
Yeah, in Tennessee.
A woman was trying to get to her grandfather's grave, and it was muddy, and this technician just took off his boots and gave them to her.
Yeah.
Just to help her get there.
That's real.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
That's going above and beyond.
And under his leadership, trust in the VA has actually gone up.
Yeah.
Veterans actually have more trust in the VA.
Yeah.
And the NCA consistently gets these really high satisfaction scores from the families that they serve. Even during the pandemic.
Even during the pandemic when everything was so chaotic.
Yeah. Which is it's incredible. And they talk about the need to adapt to the evolving veteran population.
Right, because now you have more and more veterans who are requesting green burials.
Right.
Or who want different kinds of emblems on their headstones, to reflect their different beliefs and background.
And so Walters has really been trying to push for that. He also created the Veterans Legacy Memorial.
The VLM, yeah.
This incredible digital database, which is kind of a virtual memory book.
Yeah, where families and friends can share stories and photos and really kind of preserve the memory of their loved one.
And they talk about the story of this World War II lieutenant.
Yeah.
And his son, he was able to contribute all this information to the VLM.
Yeah, and it's just such a powerful way to connect with history,
And it's incredible that he was able to do all that.
Yeah.
But, from honoring the past, we go to the future.
To the future.
To space.
To space. Vanessa Bailey, NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory.
Vanessa Bailey, NASA, JPL. I mean, talk about a different world.
It's a completely different world, but the dedication, the passion, the pursuit of knowledge, it's all the same, right?
And what they're doing at JPL is they're looking for exoplanets.
Exoplanets, yeah. Planets that orbit stars outside of our solar system.
Yeah, and they really think that within the next 25 years, we're going to find evidence of life on another planet.
That's the hope, yeah. I mean, the technology is getting so much better that we're able to detect these planets now that we couldn't even see before.
And they have this new telescope coming out, the Nancy Grace Roman Space Telescope.
Yeah.
And this is going to have something called a coronagraph on it.
A coronagraph.
Which is designed for starlight suppression.
So basically, it blocks out the light from the stars so you can actually see the planets around it.
Because otherwise, it's like you're trying to see a firefly next to a spotlight.
Exactly.
And Vanessa Bailey, she was actually able to directly image an exoplanet.
Yeah, she was one of the first people to do that.
And it's just, it's incredible. And one of the things that really comes across in Dave Eggers' essay about her is this culture of humility.
Yeah, they're very humble.
At JPL.
They don't like to take individual credit for things.
No, it's all about teamwork.
It's all about teamwork.
And so, they're really focused on finding Earth-like exoplanets.
Right.
Finding another planet that could potentially support life.
And the key to that is finding planets in the Goldilocks zone, right?
Yeah.
Not too hot, not too cold, just right.
Exactly. But of course, that's really hard because the stars are so bright.
Yeah.
So that's where the coronagraph comes in.
Like, imagine you have a desk lamp and you're trying to see a Post-it note on the wall behind it.
Yeah.
You can't see the Post-it note because the light from the lamp is too bright.
Right.
But if you put your hand in front of the lamp, you can block out the light and you can see the Post-it note.
So the chronograph is basically like your hand in front of the lamp.
Exactly.
Oh, that's a really good analogy.
I thought so.
But they're also working on this other technology.
Oh, the star shade.
The star shade, yeah.
Oh, that's even more ambitious.
It's like a giant, like, flower-shaped...
Yeah, like a sunflower.
Yeah, like a sunflower that would orbit in space.
And it would unfold and block out the light from the star.
It's incredible.
Yeah, it's like science fiction, but it's real.
And a lot of this goes back to this woman named Nancy Grace Roman.
Oh, yeah. The mother of Hubble.
The mother of Hubble.
She was a huge advocate for space-based telescopes.
Yeah?
And she actually proposed the idea of a coronagraph back in the 1960s.
Yeah, I mean, she was really ahead of her time.
Yeah, and she faced a lot of discouragement, as a woman in astronomy.
Yeah.
But she persevered.
But she persevered, and, like, now look at what we're able to do. And they talk about, like, how at JPL... they're very aware of the fact that they're using taxpayer money. Yeah. They want to make sure
that they're spending it wisely.
Yeah, that they're spending it wisely, that they're producing results.
Yeah.
And then from space, we go to
the IRS.
The IRS.
Yeah.
Not exactly the most popular agency.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, Bill starts his essay with a clip from The Simpsons.
Oh, yeah, the one where Homer is being audited.
About being audited.
Yeah.
Yeah, like everyone hates the IRS. But there's this guy, Jared Koopman,
yeah.
And he works for the IRS's Criminal Investigation Division.
And he's kind of like a real-life superhero.
I mean, he's a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah.
But he also has this incredible expertise in accounting.
Yeah, so he's like the ultimate IRS agent, right?
Yeah, like brains and brawn. And he kind of stumbled into this world of IRS criminal investigation.
Yeah, he was working as an accountant, but he felt like it was missing something.
Yeah.
And then he found his calling in law enforcement.
Yeah, and his career, like, really takes off.
Yeah, he rose through the ranks very quickly.
But what he loves the most is, like, working cases.
Yeah, he likes to be in the trenches.
He wants to be in the trenches.
Right.
And so... he gets into this world of cryptocurrency.
Which, back in the early days, people thought it was like totally anonymous and untraceable.
Right, like the Wild West of finance.
Yeah, and that attracted a lot of criminal activity.
Yeah, a lot of people were like, oh, this is great. We could do whatever we want.
Yeah.
But Koopman, he's like, no. We can actually trace these transactions.
Yeah, because every transaction is recorded on the blockchain.
Yeah.
So if you know what you're doing, you can actually follow the money.
Yeah, and they were able to develop these techniques to do just that.
Yeah.
And they really went after this company called Binance.
Binance, yeah, a huge cryptocurrency exchange.
Yeah, it was like one of the biggest in the world.
And they were operating outside of U.S. regulations.
Yeah.
So Koopman and his team, they were like, we got to take these guys down.
Yeah, and they did.
It did.
Like, they were able to collect all this data, even from, like, AWS help desk logs.
Yeah, they were really creative in how they gathered information.
Yeah, and they found that Binance was basically facilitating all kinds of illegal activity.
Money laundering, drug trafficking, all sorts of bad stuff.
Yeah, it was really bad.
Yeah.
But, I mean, one of the challenges he has is, like, retaining talent.
Oh, yeah.
Because people can go to the private sector.
And make a lot more money.
But there's this new IRS commissioner, Danny Warfel.
Yeah.
And he's trying to modernize the IRS.
Yeah, he's got a lot of funding from the Inflation Reduction Act.
Yeah.
And he's using that to improve customer service, update technology, all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, and Koopman thinks this is going to be really helpful in retaining people. But, I mean, his work is really about national security, financial safety.
Yeah.
Like, it's really important stuff.
Yeah, it's protecting people from criminals.
And it's fascinating that, like, they were able to do all this.
Yeah, and most people don't even know about it.
Most people have no idea. Like, Bell goes to this cybersecurity conference.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, how many of you guys know about the IRS's work in cybercrime? And they're like, nobody raises their hand.
They're like, the IRS? What?
Yeah, like they're the secret weapon.
Yeah, they're like a nerdy SEAL Team 6.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And then we go from the IRS
to the National Archives.
To the National Archives with Pamela Wright.
Pamela Wright, yeah.
And she's all about ensuring that everyone has access to government records.
Yeah, that's the mission of the National Archives.
Yes.
To make sure that these records are preserved and accessible to the public.
And it's really important. Right.
It's incredibly important.
Because, these are the documents that tell our story.
Yeah, it's our history.
Yeah. And they've been doing this for a long time, right?
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to the War of 1812.
Yeah.
When the British burned down Washington, D.C.
And they burned a lot of the records.
Yeah, they burned a lot of the records.
And so people were like, we got to do a better job of preserving these things.
Yeah, right.
So that's how the National Archives eventually came to be.
Yeah.
And, she's really passionate about this.
Yeah, she grew up in rural Montana.
Yeah.
And she knows how important it is for people to be able to connect with their history.
Yeah.
Even if they live far away from the big cities.
And so she's been working on digitizing all these records.
Yeah, they have 13 billion records.
13 billion records.
It's a massive undertaking.
It's a lot of records.
Yeah.
But she wants to make sure that anybody with an internet connection
can access them.
Yes. Yeah. And this is really important because it makes the agency more democratic.
Yeah.
It makes the country more democratic.
It's about fairness. Right.
It's about fairness.
Everyone should have access to this information.
But I mean, one of the things that they point out in the essay is that the National Archives is really underfunded.
Yeah. They don't have enough money to do everything they need to do.
Yeah. Which is kind of a shame.
Yeah, because they're doing such important work.
And they have this thing called History Hub, which is an online platform where people can ask questions.
Yeah, and get answers from archivists.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because you get all these different kinds of questions.
Yeah, everything from where can I find my great-grandfather's military records to what was the weather like in Washington, D.C. on July 4th, 1776?
Yeah, it's this amazing resource.
Yeah, and it's a great way for people to connect with history on a personal level.
And it can also lead to some uncomfortable truths.
Yeah, sometimes the records reveal things that we don't want to see.
Yeah, but it's important to know the truth.
It's important to know the truth, yeah.
And they have this anecdote about the Help U.S. Protect the Records pencil.
Oh, yeah, I love that story.
It's just a simple pencil.
Yeah.
But it's a reminder that
these records are fragile and we need to protect them.
Yeah, and it goes back to the Presidential Records Act.
Yeah, which was passed after Watergate to make sure that presidential records are preserved.
Yeah, that's all connected. And then we go from the National Archives
back to the Department of Justice.
With
Olivia Rinberg going.
Now, she's a paralegal specialist in the Antitrust Division.
And she's all about social justice.
Yeah, and at first, Bella's like, antitrust? How is that social justice?
Right. It seems kind of dry.
Yeah, it seems kind of dry. But it's really not.
It's not.
And it's interesting, even to write about her job, Belle had to get all this permission.
Oh, yeah. The government is very careful about what information they release. Yeah. There are a lot of layers of approval.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. But, she works in the litigation program.
Yeah.
And she's involved in all kinds of antitrust cases.
Yeah.
And she herself, she has a really fascinating background.
Yeah. She was adopted by 2 white lesbian mothers in Portland, Maine.
Yeah.
And then they moved to Oakland, California to find a more diverse community.
Yeah. And she was really involved in LGBTQ plus activism.
Yeah. Especially the fight for marriage equality.
Yeah. And she loves D.C.
Yeah. She loves D.C.
She says it's because there's so many young people
who are interested in politics.
Yeah.
And also because it has a really vibrant Black community.
Yeah. And she's just she's really passionate about making the world a better place.
Yeah.
And so she explains antitrust law in this really clear way.
Yeah.
She's just look, it's about preventing monopolies.
Right.
It's about making sure that consumers aren't being charged inflated prices.
And that there's a fair marketplace for businesses to compete in.
Yeah. It's if you have one grocery store in town,
right,
and they're the only grocery store,
they can charge whatever they want.
They can charge whatever they want for milk.
Yeah.
And so antitrust law is there to prevent that.
Yeah. It's about protecting consumers and promoting competition.
And Kathy O'Neill, she talks about how antitrust is also about supporting innovation.
Right. Because if you have a monopoly, there's no incentive to innovate.
Yeah, exactly. And they use the example of AT&T.
Oh, yeah. The breakup of AT&T.
How, back in the day, AT&T was a monopoly.
They controlled everything.
And then the government broke them up.
And that led to all this innovation in the telecom industry.
Yeah, we got cell phones, we got the internet.
Yeah, the football phone.
Yeah, the football phone. Who doesn't love the football phone?
It's a classic.
But I mean, there's all these recent antitrust.